Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Green Room series. My name is Rei Hotoda, and I'm the music director of the Fresno Philharmonic. And the Green Room series is a chance for us to interview our musicians while we're not able to perform together during this time. This is our fifth episode. Can you believe it? This is fantastic. I want to say thank you to all our musicians who have participated in the past interviews, and also thank you to our audiences who have been tuning in. Today, I thought it would be interesting to get to know our wind section. And so we are going to introduce our principal players. First, our principal flutist, Janette Erickson. Hello, Janette.
Hi, nice to be here, Ray.
Welcome. And our principal oboist, Rong-Huey Liu.
Hello, everyone. Glad to be here.
Wonderful. Well, I am going to start with music because this is what we can't do together is be on stage performing together right now. This is an excerpt of Tchaikovsky's Symphony No. 4. This is the last movement, the finale, and it features the winds prominently here. Plus, so as you can see, our principals, Janette and Rong-Huey, are sitting right in the middle of our orchestra. And it's a very important role that these principal players have. Janette, can you tell us a little bit about your role as a principal player of the flute section there?
Well, as principal flute, I play the flute solos, of course, and then I try to guide and lead the flute section, which usually is three of us, sometimes four. And I confer with the other principal players. I try to hold the pitch right with our principal oboist and watch what is happening down the row in my group. And it's a prominent solo position, but it's also one where you're in the moment, you're trying to work with the other principals and the other players in the section.
Right, and this is interesting because compared to the string players that we've been interviewing, the principal sections, the string sections, they have, about 12, sometimes the basses. Last week we were interviewing, they have about, 7 or 8 players in their section. You have 3, maybe sometimes 4 that you're having to guide and lead. And you brought up a very interesting topic, which is intonation. Rong-Huey, can you tell us a little bit about how you and Janette work through intonation and also our other principal players of the wind section?
Usually, I have a lot of musical lines with Janette. So what I do is we figure out where it doesn't match and we play it in tune within ourselves. Then we approach to other players trying to put the chords to get together. And that's what we do.
Yes, and a lot of the wind parts, the principal parts have, like for instance, a triad or a diminished seventh chord or something where you are really having to tune within each other, and then also tune to the violins, right?
Mm-hmm.
And things in front. Sometimes you will have Janette. You will have a solo with our concertmaster all the way across the stage. How do you manage something like that where you're, all the way back in the middle of the section and you have to really listen to the front of the orchestra?
Well, mainly I really have to focus in on our conductor. And we're all trained to play precisely with what we're seeing in front of us. And sometimes you cannot hear somebody who, say, the principal cellist or somebody way across the way. And so I have to just focus my best on the conductor.
And Rong-Huey, what's your experience been like working, with, like, for instance, if you have a solo with the harp or a cello or?
Right, with the harp, the intonation is slightly different. So I would approach to the harpist during a break to just play through things and find out where I can go higher, where I can go lower with my pitch. But with the string player, for example, in the Brahms symphony, I have this, I think it was number one. I have this beautiful solo with the concertmaster. And how do I play exactly the same way with Stephanie? And usually what I do is during a break, I'll go up to her and say, could you play that for me? And I would try to match her vibrato, match her pitch, match her phrasing, where I can breathe, where she doesn't need to breathe. Yeah, so that's how I managed to try to put it together.
And I think that's what makes an orchestra really, really good, is the ability to play chamber music with each other. And exactly. I think you, being principal players of the wind section, really have a lot to say, and a lot of solos, which you will have to coordinate with the rest of the orchestra. And also, I find it, I don't know about you, but I always find that I'm asking more from the wind players, especially the principals, to play out more, because you are one player playing with a whole cello section or a whole string section of the orchestra. What are your maybe some stories that you can share with us about those kinds of issues, or maybe you like doing things like that and playing really full? Or Janette, can we ask you?
We have more than one role. One is as a soloist, and sometimes you're playing a duet or a trio with somebody in the wind section or string players. But oftentimes I'm playing with the solo clarinet, who really can't hear me very well because he's behind me, or the bassoon, or the French horns, which are quite a distance behind me. And so I really tune into them, particularly if the sound is coming from behind me, and focus on the conductor, knowing that they can't hear me as well as I can hear them.
And oftentimes the three of us are locked in, like we're looking at each other. I love it when both of you are looking right at me, looking for cues and direction, and it's just such a joy to work with both of you. So I would like to ask Rong-Huey about your instrument. Now, the oboe has a double reed that you blow through. It's this tiny implement that you stick on the top of your instrument. Maybe can you tell us a little bit about your history with your instrument? Tell us a little bit about the instrument.
I started learning oboe in 4th grade, and at that time I didn't know I have to make reeds. And then later on, when I decided to become a true oboe player, then my teacher told me, okay, you have to make your own reed. And at that time I was playing European reeds, so you didn't have to scrape too much of it. And so it seems like it was easy to make reed. I thought, okay, this is okay. But after I came to America, it became like, it was very intricate, and then you have to spend a lot of time and patience to do them. So usually I spend about several days to make a reed, and each day is about an hour long. Unfortunately, the reed doesn't last so long. It lasts about 15 hours of playing time. And so if I were to play with different orchestra, different venue, I have to modify my reed. So I often have a case of whole bunch of reeds, just trying to figure out which one works when I get to the venue.
I would love to share with our audiences a video you just recently made, Rong-Huey,
yes,
about your reed making. Can you tell us a little bit about are you playing in this piece as well?
Yes, that was my live performance with my sister. That was from a year or 2 years ago. In a performance, I actually commissioned this composer for this piece, and he came up with the idea of small hour and rush hour. And so I say that's perfect, because small hour is when I'm making my reed.
Let's share this video with everyone. I love how that video ends wrong way. It's
Thank you.
timed. It's like cued perfectly.
Yeah.
So, okay, so you say you have several reeds that you're making. How long does one reed take to make? Like the best one, that you can make.
You mean how long it takes me to make them? All of them, I spend about the same amount of time. Usually, it's over 4 days of making one piece of reed, and each day is about 45 to 1 hour long.
Wow. So in addition to all the practicing that you do, you also have to take in this time consideration to make the reeds. And then I think humidity affects the reeds as well. Is that right?
Yes, humidity, temperature, atmosphere, um, location, altitude, especially. So all of this affects the reed itself very much.
So fascinating. Now, Janette, you are the only instrument in the wind section that do not use reeds, your flute, right?
Right.
Yes. So can you tell us a little bit about your background and also about a little bit about the instrument?
Well, I started the piano when I was in fourth grade. And luckily, my first piano teacher, Zenora Swanson, went to Juilliard School of Music. I had a great first teacher. And then I added flute in the fifth grade and found that I had more love actually for the flute. It's just like the human voice. And added piccolo and alto, flute from the flute family in there. But this particular flute that I just bought has been a real trial for me because I was looking for another flute that would have a couple of different options than what I have been playing on in the last 20 years. And I play gold and silver. And so it took me a year to transport back and forth and try all these head joints and put them through trials. And I'm really happy the way it turned out. I thought I might have to just fly to New York and get another head joint made by Mr. Drollinger, but this last one, number 34, was the one. And I played it the first half of this season. And then as we stopped, I realized, oh, okay, I've got a half a season on this flute, and I'm very pleased at its projection and pitch and timbre qualities.
Right. And for those of us who might not know that the flute comes apart, there are three parts to the flute. And the head joint is the part where you are blowing air through, correct?
Correct.
Yes. And so the head joint, there are many different kinds of head joints, maybe like many different kinds of bows for string players. But have you found the difference in quality of sounds between the different metals that are used for the flute? You just mentioned the gold and the silver. I know there's platinum flutes as well.
Right. Platinum is very heavy. I have my two most used flutes are golden and silver combination. And the sound in the head joint, like I was saying, makes up about 80% of the sound. And if you get a really good flute body, and there are many different makes you can use, you just have to really be careful that you get the right head joint. I have another flute that has a platinum riser, and it can part your hair down the middle. It's so loud. But the gold, I think the gold just adds coloration and expression that you can't get any other way.
Interesting. Well, another question for both of you. What has kept you inspired to keep playing and to be, during this time where we're not able to perform together? I know, Rong-Huey, you have made several videos where you are playing the piano and playing the oboe, but not just one oboe. You have two different parts that you're playing, not at the same time, of course, but you're making these videos. And I know, Janette, you have also done a video for us, both are which are on our Facebook pages. So please take a look at that. But what has kept you inspired? And
Janette, go ahead.
maybe a few things that you want to share with our maybe the students out there to inspire them to keep playing. Janette, let's start with you.
Well, every summer I do a couple of really big reviews. I do a huge technical review that usually takes all summer. It includes many etude books, technical study. I even do some pitch things with it. I do a large orchestral excerpt review where I am mainly trying to maintain the major solos that I'm going to be playing. And I listen to recordings so I can get new ideas. And then I work on new solo and ensemble repertoire, particularly from my chamber group, Moment Musicale. And lastly, I think about, most of my students stay with me until about August. And I think about materials for them and what they will need to do in September. And I have some very fine students that I put a lot of thought into what they should work on next to keep them going and to get them interested and educate them maybe towards different thinking, different styles. And so basically that's what I try to do in the summer.
And Janette, you have, how long have you been playing with the Fresno Philharmonic?
Well, I won my principal flute audition in 1978, and Guy Taylor was the conductor. So I think I just ended my 42nd year. I am not the oldest player in the winds or the strings, but I have been the longest principal player.
Wonderful. Thank you, Janette. Rong-Huey, what have inspired you during this time to make these videos, to keep playing, to keep practicing?
It happened to be at the time where I was preparing a concerto. And so the concerto performance didn't happen because it got canceled. And I thought, okay, I'll just keep practicing it because it's such a difficult piece. And I want to make it perfect next time when I performed it. So that kind of kept me going. And then I have family, 2 young children. So I was working online, work with them. But all at this time, what I had in mind was we'll go back. And once we go back, we have to be ready just at any time. And sure enough, little projects start coming in, the recording project. I did a Bolero, all parts, Beethoven 6, and Song of the Bird, and now the Riverside Field projects. And on top of that, I was also invited by International Double Reed Convention to present a recital for their first virtual symposium. And so all of a sudden, you try to get yourself in shape. And then I start getting recording calls, like in the recording industry. And so with those, you only have a few hours of preparation to drive over there and sit down and make a recording. So all of this had really kept me in shape just to make sure that I can just pick up the oboe and play.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much. So finally, I would like both of you to share something for our Fresno Philharmonic audiences to keep supporting us and to keep watching and to keep waiting for us to return to Soroyan someday very soon in the future. Anything you'd like to say to our Fresno Philharmonic audiences? Rong-Huey, let's start with you.
I think music is so important. And when I first went back to perform, to record with 2 other members in the studio, in a huge studio with 2 other members sitting really far away. And I thought when we first finished our first piece, we just all turn around to each other and say, that's why we play music. And it was such a moment that I think the Fresno audience would really remember that when they go into our concert and hear us play again. And I would love to start also waving to all my audience, my faithful fan in the audience, because I miss waving at them in the concert halls. So I hope they would support us continuously, even after all of this pandemic.
Yes. Janette?
Well, I think I would like to say that all of us are grieving. we're grieving our jobs, we're grieving our change in our lives, and the audience is hungry to hear us again. They're grieving too. And so I think I would like to say, keep some humor. I know it's really hard to do, and I'd like to just share this one story from the Philharmonic stage if I could. And I love playing Ravel's Bolero, and there's a piece that we've done twice with Cirque du Symphony, and it's called Little Bolero Boy. It's a take on Ravel's Bolero and also Little Drummer Boy. And so we played it for this Cirque du Symphony, and they're acrobatic performers. And first of all, the solo at the beginning sounds like Ravel. There's a snare and the flute starts. And it's so funny that the whole orchestra burst out laughing during the rehearsal. And I had to say, oh, please don't laugh, because if I laugh, my muscles go to the brain. I can't play. So none of them laughed at the concert. And so in spite of all of this grieving, I'd like to say that we'll be back and we'll have lots of fun again. To the audience.
Yes. Well, thank you both for participating in this Green Room series. Thank you all for watching. Please stay safe, and we look forward to seeing you again next week in our final episode of the Green Room series. With our musicians, we will introduce our new assistant principal cellist. So thank you all.